एषा ब्राह्मे स्थितिः पार्थ नयनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा अस्याम् अंतकाले अपि ब्रह्म निर्वाणं रिच्यति. Hello friends, this is the 72nd shlok of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and today we will understand this shlok in detail. So let's first go over its meaning. So the shlok says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha, which means situated in this Brahmi Sthiti, which is the power of Brahman, O Parth, Nayanam Prapya Vimuhyati, which means does not attain illusion or confusion. Sthitva Asyam Antakale api, which means having been situated in her even at the end time, Brahma Nirvanam Richati, which means attains Brahman Nirvan. So, this is the last shlok of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and in this shlok, Shri Krishna is telling Arjun that a person who is situated in the Brahmi Sthiti, which is basically the power of Brahman, is Brahmi. So, a person who is situated in the Brahmi, he is not deluded, and by being staying in that state even during the times of distress, such as death, he attains Nirvana. So, over here, the term Brahman and Brahmi have been introduced, and I think we should spend some time to really understand what these two are, because they are very important in terms of understanding the thought process of the Indian tradition. So, superficially speaking, we all know that Brahman is the absolute Godhead, and Brahmi is the female form of Brahman, so she must be the power of Brahman. But we have to understand it in more detail. So, the thing is that in the Indian tradition, we have a very different approach towards divinity than the approach which is present in other traditions. And since the other traditions have been more dominant in terms of controlling the narrative, so we have also forgotten our own tradition. So, in the present times, we have this tendency of pointing out that God is an entity which is separate, or it's an entity which is separate from this universe, or it's something which is an individual entity. We think of it like that, and because we think of it like that, we think that God is not not present everywhere, but it's basically just an individual or things like that. In fact, there are traditions which really emphasize it very, very strongly, that he is one, he is one, he is one. And then they'll say, oh, you cannot really see him, you cannot really see him, but he is one. You cannot really see him, but he is one. They still think of it as if there is just an individual or an entity called God. But in Indian tradition, that is not really the case. In Indian tradition, God in that sense is just a tool. So when you say that God is an entity, then that is just a tool for you to get to the absolute Godhead, which is Brahman. In reality, this absolute Godhead, Brahman, is something that you cannot really experience, that you cannot even point to. And the reason why that is the case is because we think of the divinity as the ability to experience itself. You and I and all the living beings or who are present in this world, they all have this ability to experience this world, and this ability to experience is basically the root cause of this universe. Because as we have discussed previously, when we say that something exists, it exists because you are able to experience it. If no one experiences something, that thing does not really exist. So this ability to experience inside us, that ability is the real divinity. Now, if the ability to experience is the divinity, then how can something which is experienced be divinity? And so when we say, God, so for example, there are so many different gods in Indian tradition and other traditions also. We say Ram is God, we say Krishna is God, we say Shiva is God, Vishnu is God, we say Ganesh is God, Hanuman is God, and then we have also Allah and Jesus as gods been presented. But these are all entities that we can point to. These are the entities which are basically some ideas that are present in our mind, and so there are something which is an entity. If it's either, it can be an image, or it can be an idea, or it can be some sort of a picturization or some sort of a conceptualization also. So when you are conceptualizing it, when you're picturizing it, it becomes an entity, and so you can point towards it and you can say, okay, this is an idea. Even an idea is something which is experienced. A picture is experienced, an image is experienced, a concept is experienced, and an idea is also experienced. They're all experienced. So they are all experienced over here. But we are saying that the absolute Godhead is something which experiences. Now, when someone is experiencing, then he cannot be the experience. So when we point to God like that, when we point to God as an entity, we are basically still presenting an idea. An idea is also experienced, and if it is experienced, then it is not the experiencer. It's just like our eyes. Our eyes see, but our eyes cannot see themselves because they are the ones who see. Similarly, when we experience, then we are experiencing. So the fact that we are experiencing makes us aware that there is a divinity inside us, just like the experience of seeing makes us aware that we have eyes. Similarly, the experience itself points us towards the experiencer, but it is not the experiencer itself. So the experiencer is what Brahman is. He is the absolute Godhead. He is the causal as well as the material source of this universe. But the experience that you are experiencing is not God itself. And so when you go into meditation and you basically calm your mind down and you experience that stillness, then that stillness is not really God. That stillness is pointer towards God. It basically, the thing is that in our daily life we get so lost in our own experiences that we forget that we are experiencing. The very fact that we are experiencing is forgotten. We all the time are mostly focused towards other things, and so this idea that we are experiencing, that is something that we miss. And because we miss that thing, we miss the idea that there is an experiencer sitting inside us, which is actually the source of this universe. And so we miss the Godhead. But when you calm your mind down and when you sit in idleness and when you are not really paying attention to anything, that is when that observer comes forth and you realize, oh, there is an observer which is sitting inside me. So this state in which you are able to experience the stillness so that you can then realize that there is an experience inside you, that is what is Brahmi. That is what is the Sthit. That is the Sthit, Brahmi Sthiti. That is what it is. So Brahmi is this power in us to experience, and the experiencer is the absolute Godhead, which is Brahman. And since this power to experience is also the characteristic of the experiencer, therefore it is not separate from the experiencer, but just limiting the experience to be the absolute Godhead will be incorrect. The experiencer also has to be included over here. So that is what Sri Krishna is telling over here, that the person who is situated in Brahmi Sthiti, which is the situation where you're aware of the fact that you are experiencing, then you do not fall into the illusion. You do not fall into the moha, vimuhyati, free from moha, free from illusion. And when you become free from illusion, and if you can sustain this situation throughout your life, and even during the times of distress, even when you are about to die, because death is the time which is the highest, when you feel highest distress. So even during that time, if you can stay in this situation, then of course you have attained freedom and you have attained nirvana. So that is the message that has been presented over here. So this was the last shlok of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I hope I have explained this shlok well to you, and I've also explained the second chapter to you well. With that, I'll close this video. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.